أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد إن شاء الله تبارك وتعالى. This class will be for about 45 minutes inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala, 50 minutes, so we'll finish right before 9 inshallah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by His grace and His will to make this beneficial and to grant us deep knowledge of the fiqh and deep knowledge of what we need to know to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And knowledge is one of these tiring things, because very often classes are given when you are tired. And these are the best moments, because these are the moments where your reward is bigger. لأن الأجر على قدر المشقة, you will be rewarded in harmony with your effort and your fatigue. So بإذن الله سبحانه وتعالى, I don't know if somebody can put on the mic. It's just the buttons there, I think. Yeah. Have a look at the right. Bismillah. Yes. So that's good. Alhamdulillah. So let us continue. So last week we spoke about the aqsamu siyam, or the different parts of Sawm. And we are just going to remind you of the last thing we said, and that is that the Sawm can be divided into fard mu'ayyan, fard ghayr mu'ayyan, wajib mu'ayyan, and wajib ghayr mu'ayyan. When we are going to look at the fard, then it is a Sawm which has been made obligatory by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is not connected to you doing something, or it is not because of you. It is just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told you to do so. So the specified fard, the fardul ayn, or the fard al-mu'ayyan, is what is Sawm Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, fast Ramadan. It has been specified, and it is what? Not connected to anything which you do. Or meaning, you have not been the reason why you are fasting. The fard, the fard al-ghayr mu'ayyan, it is fard because Allah told you to do so, meaning you have to fast, but not when to fast. And this is making up your fast. Of course, within the madahib, they differ whether you need to make up that fast before Ramadan or whether you have time, whether it's muwassa' or mudayyiq. But what can we do in Hanafi fiqh? We can. It's muwassa'. We need to make it up even if we don't make it up before the coming Ramadan. Then we have the wajib al-mu'ayyan, which is a fard or a sawm which became obligatory because of you, and it has been defined by you. Meaning, I promise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if He cures my child, I will fast on the first Monday and Tuesday of March. So now it is wajib, it's obligatory. Why don't we say it's fard? Because originally this fasting was not obligatory upon you. The fard is either because you have to fast or because you have to make up your fast. So, and then we have the wajib ghayr mu'ayyan, which is that where you say, I promise when Allah cures my child that I will be fasting 3 days. I didn't say when, I didn't say which month, I didn't say which week. So it is still wajib, but it's not mu'ayyan. It has been specified. Now, if I specify it, I am allowed to fast before the date on which I specified that I would be fasting, like the first Monday and Tuesday of March. Well, if I now do it before that, then my oath has been fulfilled. Why? Because it was about 2 days fasting and not as much about fasting on these, on the first week of March. Okay. Then the wajib ghayr mu'ayyan, is the sawm al-nadhr and also the sawm al-kaffarat. Where you need to expiate sins, and we will speak more about that later. So now bi'idhnillahi azza wa jal, we are going to talk about the Sawm Naflun Masnoon. What we need to know in the Hanafi fiqh, very often we have different names for the same things. It all depends which scholar is using which term. Sometimes they can say masnoon, sometimes they can say strongly, or they can say mustahab, or whatever it is. But here it means a naflun masnoon, a non-obligatory, strongly recommended fast. And this would be Sawm Ashura, yani the 10th and the 9th of Ashura. Because of the Prophet ﷺ saying that Sawm of the day of Ashura, yani that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would forgive the sins of the previous year. I mean, that's an enormous thing. If you fast the 10th and the 9th or 10th and 11th, then the sins of all your year will be forgiven. Then the other reason we said, then we have the Naflu al-Mandub. The Naflu al-Mandub means it is recommended, it is loved, these kind of fasts. The first one we said was Ayamu the days of the full moon, which is 13th, 14th and 15th of the Islamic calendar year. The Prophet ﷺ said to Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he gave him 3 pieces of advice, and one of them was to fast every month 3 days. And when you do this, then Allah will calculate it for you as if you have fasted a month or a month and a day. Why a month and a day? Because in Islam we have some months which are 29 days and some are 30. We don't have 31. We don't have 28, right? Like in February sometimes. So what is going on now here is when the Prophet ﷺ said like a month or a month and a day, because every hasana is multiplied by 10. So now when it are 30 days, then it is a month. When it are only 29 days, you get the reward for 30 days, it's a month and a day. Is that clear? So this is how we understand this hadith. Then fasting on the day of Al-Ithnain wal-Khamis, on Monday and on Thursday. كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يتحرى يوم الاثنين والخميس. The Prophet ﷺ did his best to pick يوم الاثنين, yani Monday and Thursday to fast on. Some say he would then do this in the first week. He would fast Monday and Thursday, and then he would only fast Monday. You see? And sometimes he would fast every Monday and Thursday, but not always. But Monday, yes. When he was asked, why do you fast on Monday? He said, because that's the day on which I was born. I fast on Monday because that is the day where I was born. So the Prophet ﷺ was reminding and thanking Allah every Monday for his birth. For his birthday. Every what? Every Monday. So anyway, I don't want to explain any more than this. I think a lot of people don't understand more. Then, so he said, this is the day on which I was born, and you can find this in the Sahih of Imam Muslim. So it's not like a weak hadith, or no, it's in Sahih Muslim. The third one is صَوْمُ عَرَفَ لِغَيْرِ الْحَاجِ, is that he who does not perform the Hajj fasts on the day of Arafah. Because this is one of the best days. And if someone fasts this day, then also his previous year, the sins of his previous year will be forgiven. We always need to know the previous years or the sins of previous years do not include sins in which you need to establish in which you need to rectify wrongdoing towards a person. These sins are not forgiven unless you rectify it, you apologize, or you return the dhulama, yani that which is the haqq of the one you have wronged. And then, subhanAllah, we have a nafal. Yani a nafal means that it is not connected to anything which the Prophet ﷺ has said, meaning you feel like fasting, you fast, no problem. It shouldn't always be connected to reason. You just do it out of worship for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that would be your only worship. So there's not really a true day why you would be or won't be fasting. Okay. Then we have, barakallahu fikum, some of the other times where it is mustahab to fast as well. Like, for example, the sit min Shawwal, the 6 days of Shawwal. In reality, Imam Malik rahimahullah, he said that it would be disliked to fast these days, because people would give more attention to the sitta of Shawwal than to making up their fast. While in reality, when you're going to look at it, making up your fast is more important than fasting the sitta of Shawwal. And also because some of the people feel that they are bad Muslims or have a feeling of guilt when they do not fast the 6 days of Shawwal. While it is not obligatory, you are not sinning, you are not falling short. it is just an extra sawm if you would like to do so. Is that clear? So now if you were to tell, a Muslim would ask you, do you fast the 6 days of Shawwal? You say, no, this year I won't. They might actually consider you to be a bad Muslim. They might consider you to be not a worshipful person, while in reality you are not doing anything wrong. Is that clear? Of course, it is better to fast these days. Yes? Yes. No. It is disliked to fast. So the disliked fasting is to fast only on Ashura without fasting the 9th or the 11th. The reason why? When the Prophet ﷺ went to Medina and he saw that the Jewish community was fasting, he asked them, why are you fasting? And they said, because this is the day that Allah saved Musa ﷺ. And he said, نَحْنُ أَحَقُّ بِمُوسَى مِنْكُمْ. Yani we have more right over Musa than you do. So he says, in ishtu, yani if I am still alive, I will fast that day and the 9th, yani a day before it or a day after it. So fasting only on Ashura would then actually be imitating the worship of the Jewish community at that time. And the difference between us and them would then be that our worship would be adding a day either before Ashura or after Ashura. Is that clear? Then what would also be disliked is fasting on Saturday without preceding it with a day or following it up with a day. Now, so the Prophet ﷺ, he made very clear. He said, لا يصومن أحدكم يوم السبت إلا فيما افترض عليكم. Do not fast on Saturday unless it is a fard fasting. And he said, and if someone has got nothing to eat, then even if he were to chew on a branch, this would have been better for him. You see, I mix up American English with UK English. Sometimes I even add a bit of Jamaican in it and Australian. But alhamdulillah, Jamaican and Australian accent have left me long time. So now I'm just in conflict between American and what? And British English. So a branch. A branch would be like... So you use branch for the tree and also a branch, yani a kind of... It's always branch. And the Americans always brand. Anyway, okay. Just let us... SubhanAllah, they have qira'at of their language. So Yom Sept. But then you see that the Prophet ﷺ saw that his wife was fasting on Friday. And then he asked her, did you fast yesterday? She said no. He said, will you fast tomorrow? She said no. He said, then eat. So now, barakallahu fikum, our scholars say, okay, when the Prophet ﷺ now said, when we take these two hadith together, when he said, do not fast on Saturday unless it's a fard, meaning on Saturday without preceding it or following it up with another day of fasting. The proof for that is that he asked his wife, will you be fasting tomorrow? And tomorrow would have been a Saturday. When she said no, he said, break your fast. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ disliked people to choose the night or the day of Jum'ah for a particular worship. Because the biggest worship on Friday is the khutbah. So this is what makes Friday special. Friday is beautified, and it will be the beauty of the days on the Day of Judgment. The Prophet ﷺ said that Friday will come as a bride on the Day of Judgment. So if you see, this is why the Prophet ﷺ would dislike someone to choose a particular worship on the day of Friday, because we have the moment where the dua is accepted. We have the ghusl on Friday. Also, it is a sunnah for a couple for a married couple to be intimate on Friday. It is also ibadah to read Surah Al-Kahf on Friday. So we already have all of these specified forms of worship by the Prophet ﷺ. Why are we adding something? So if you now read Surah Al-Kahf on Friday, the Prophet ﷺ not only said that you will be protected against Shaitan, Dajjal, he also said that you will be given a light which is seen through the universe. You don't see it, the angels see it. They ask, whose light is this? Well, from that person reading Surah Al-Kahf. So these are these forms of worship. It is also a day where there is no dahr. Subhanallah. On Friday there is no Dhuhr prayer. Isn't that strange? And some people say, yeah, but the Jum'ah replaces the Dhuhr prayer. We still say, well, when you miss your Jum'ah prayer, you need to pray Dhuhr. That's true. But this is why they say the two khutbahs, the khutbatan, yani replace the two first rak'at. And then the salah are the second two rak'at, and together they are what? They are like Dhuhr. But anyway, there is no Dhuhr. Dhuhr can be skipped, or Dhuhr shouldn't be prayed by those who attend the khutbah. So you see that Friday is a very special day. And this is why we need to honor it, like we wash ourselves, we perfume ourselves, put on our best clothing, and all these other things which are connected to it. Is that clear? Okay, what was your question, please? The Prophet ﷺ said because the Sept was a day where the Jewish people wouldn't allow themselves to do certain things, like to turn on the lights or the candles, to open cupboards, to do all these other things. So they specified Yawm al-Sabt as their day of worship. So if we have our Friday, so we won't be delivering our khutbah on Saturday nor on Sunday. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said they preceded us in their existence, like first the Jews and then the Christians. But Allah gave us Friday, so we preceded them. You see? So this is a God-given gift, isn't it? A gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Any other questions? طيب. Then here another thing, barakallahu fikum, is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam disliked someone to fast throughout the year, like without interruption. We know that Imam al-Nasa'i, rahimahullah azza wa jal, and he was one of these narrators of Sunan al-Nasa'i, the narrators of Hadith. He used to fast every year of the day. Every year of the day, every day of the year. He used to fast every what? Every day of the year. Yes. He used to fast every day, subhanAllah, of the year, and he wouldn't break his fast. Well, he would eat on the day of Eid. So we say that if someone fasts the entire year but doesn't fast on the day of Eid, then he doesn't fall under this hadith. But nevertheless, some people would say it would be disliked, because it weakens the majority of people when they fast a lot, and also one becomes too acquainted with fasting and too used to fasting that it's no longer like very special. So this is why the Prophet ﷺ said the best fast is the fast of Dawood. He would fast a day and break his fast a day. Fast a day and break his fast a day. Now the problem is when you start this kind of fasting, you need to continue. You can't stop. And this is what Imam al-Khattabi rahimahullah azza wa jal explained in his Sharh of Sahih al-Bukhari. Al-Khattabi rahimahullah azza wa jal. He said about the hadith, Allah will not stop giving until you stop doing. Meaning that when you choose to open like a tap of worship, when you worship, it's like opening a tap and the hasanat come out of that tap. Well, if now you were to have a tap and you have fluid gold coming from that tap, will you ever close it? I promise you, you won't. You have a halal tap, not a haram tap. You open it, nothing but diamonds. You won't stop. You leave it open. No, I want more. Subhanallah. So now when you open the tap of hasanat, you say, I don't need it anymore. I'm tired. I don't want to. Subhanallah, are diamonds and gold more important to you than what? Than hasanat? So this is why it is better for a person on his or her way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to think before doing something. Because it is very impolite towards Allah to open a tap which He opens for you and then to close it yourself. Is that clear? So this is why it is better. كان أحب الأعمال إليه صلى الله عليه وسلم يعني أدومها أو أدومها وإن قل. The deeds he loved, which are the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are the ongoing ones, even if they are small in number. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And today we think everything is about quantity. So that's also important to know. Allah, Sawmul Wisal, just this one. Sawmul Wisal is also not allowed. And al wisal is something which the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do, which means that you fast 2 days in a row without breaking your fast. To start with, the moment the sun sets, your fast is broken. Even if you don't eat. So your fast is broken anyway. So there's no worship in it. Now, so that's number two. No, number one. Number two is that it was only for the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So nobody is allowed to do it apart from the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is also disliked. Sawm, which is makruh tahriman, is fasting on Eid. You are not allowed to fast on Eid. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "La sawma fi yawmayn, al-fitr wal-adha." Yani on the day of Eid al-Fitr and the day of Eid al-Adha, he sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said there is no fasting. And he said alayhi salatu wasalam, إِنَّ هَذَيْنِ يَوْمَانِ نَهَى رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم عن صيامهما. Like Umar radiallahu anhu said, يَوْمَ فِطْرِكُمْ مِنْ صِيَامِكُمْ وَالْآخَرْ يَوْمَ تَأْكُلُونَ فِيهِ مِنْ نُسُكِكُمْ. Yani, so in very brief, he said, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that it is not allowed to fast on 2 days, Yawm al-Fitr and Yawm al-Adha. But now some of the murabbiyin, like educators in Turkey, they would not eat on the day of Eid. They won't eat on the day of Eid. They would actually wait until 5 minutes before Maghrib and then they would eat. And then they would say, my nafs, I controlled you today. My soul, I didn't wrong you today. You ate. You see? Because this is not fasting. The moment you eat before the sun sets, then you weren't fasting. And they would do this to control their ego, to control their passions, their lusts and their wants and their yearns and so much more. So this is a way that the Ottoman murabbiyin or spiritual educators would form their students as well. So it's Eid. You're going to eat today, but not now. Wait until 5 minutes before Maghrib. So you now know that, subhanAllah, that your day was for nothing. Because you're not even rewarded for this. You see? It's just educating your soul. Tarbiyatul ruh. Yes, what was your question, please?
All of the other categories in the code as muziki.
Yes. So this is makruh tahriman. Allah. Okay. Let us continue. Do you have any questions about what we said on? Yes.
You know when you said when you do something for the sake of Allah, which is optional. So, like for example, let's say you do tahajjud one day, and then you wouldn't do it for like a long time. You said this is like a sin, isn't it?
No, it's not like I didn't say it's a sin. I said we should. Yes, yes.
Do you have reference for that?
Yes, I gave it.
Oh, which is?
I said Al-Khattabi rahimahullah in Sahih Bukhari in his explanation of the hadith. So that was the reference. So the hadith is where the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah is how do you say al-malal? Al-malal. Something like that, but Allah is not bothered giving you until you stop doing. Now, but being bothered is not a divine attribute, right? So this is why Al-Khattabi says the meaning of the hadith is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not stop giving until you stop doing. And then he said, from this we understand that it's disliked to no longer want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you what He has been giving you. But we didn't say it was a sin. A sin is something else. But one should shy away when you have been blessed doing things and then all of a sudden you stop doing them. It's very strange because you were asking for His mercy. Well, that was His mercy. Why did you go away from His mercy, if you understand what I mean? If you have a further question, you can ask. What I would advise people
Will
is
Allah block you from it? Or
no. What I would advise people is to talk to people with experience, people who have built their spiritual path for a long time, and go to them and ask them for advice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. Well, we don't know how to, how to build our way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Scholars do. So we ask them, what is best to start with? What should I be doing? What is the best thing to do? And they will give you advice. But on our own, it will very often be very difficult. Okay. Omar, do you have the thing? Yeah. Thank you. No, don't say sorry. It's okay. Okay. Bismillah wa alhamdulillah. Yani there are three things which make Sawm obligatory. We call this shurutu wujub as-sawm. The conditions which make fasting obligatory. The first thing is al-Islam. Yani that someone is a Muslim. The Mu'allif Hafidahullah says, Dr. Salah Abul Hajj, فلا يجب الصوم على الكافر حتى لا يخاطب بالقضاء بعد الإسلام. Meaning, the kafir, and kafir is not an insult, the kafir doesn't have to fast. Like in a Muslim country, you're not going to say, well, you have to fast because you are in a Muslim country. And also, when he becomes a Muslim, he doesn't have to make up his fast. At least, not if he becomes a Muslim during the day, we will talk about that. But in general, he doesn't have to make up his fast. Allah. Now he says, إذا أسلم الكافر في بعض شهر رمضان فلا يلزمه قضاء ما مضى. When a kafir becomes a Muslim in the month of Ramadan, then he doesn't have to make up Ramadan which passed, in which he still is. Like, is the 15th of Ramadan, so the 16th he will fast. He doesn't have to make up the previous days. Why? Because even though that it's 1 month of worship, but the worship is interrupted, isn't it? Like every night, you're no longer fasting. So this is why we are going to look at it as not as a worship which is not being separated. Rather, we're going to look at it as something which is separated, and this is also why some of the scholars say you need a niyyah every night. Not all scholars say this, right? So you need a niyyah every night. And also, those who say one niyyah is sufficient at the beginning of the month, it is sufficient. But when you become sick and you ate, or when a woman was in a certain period in time where she's not allowed to fast, they need to renew their niyyah, because their state of being in a niyyah of fasting was interrupted by illness or by a physical thing which prevented them from fasting. So there, it wouldn't be sufficient to have one niyyah at the beginning of the month. So here one needs to renew this. But more about the niyyah for fasting later. Okay, we are just touching surfaces, but we are getting into more detail. Yes.
You said that if Kafir accepts Islam, he doesn't need to make up. What about Muslim? If he didn't fast, for example, some years.
He needs to make up all these fasting. If a Muslim practices Islam all of a sudden, then all the previous years he needs to make up.
It's like the same as the Salah.
Yes, same as the Salah. Yes, yes. يعني دين الله أحق أن يقضى. The debt you have with Allah gets priority over all other debts. Like, it is a debt which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted from us. We are not the ones who can say, well, I'm not going to pay it back. Who are we? Where is the hadith? Where is the dalil? Where is the ayah that says, and when you didn't pray for 5 years, then just let it go? No. It's a debt and we have to pay it back. So this is why in the fiqh al-Hanafi, in Hanafi fiqh, we say that if someone didn't pray for a long time and then starts praying, he should write this in his testament, and the amount of prayers that he still needs to pray, and then every week he will adapt this, and then when he dies, a portion which is less of the third of the money which is left behind can be used to pay an amount of money for each salah that he didn't pray. Is that clear? Like this is only when the person had the intention to make up the prayers and was really doing it. Then he puts in a testament, and then when he dies, a part of the money, of the heritage that is left behind, will be given to what? To pay for the amount of salawat he didn't do, and the scholars differ about how much they should be. Okay? This is typical for the Hanafi fiqh. No.
How would you find out how much this amount is?
What do you mean?
You know, said you for every namaz is like a pound. Is there?
Well, as I said, it is more a symbolical thing than it is really a thing. So maybe later on we can get to that when we get to the fiqh of janaiz and so much more, because there is a hila, there is a deviation in which that the money eventually will come back to the those who would have inherited him. So in any way, okay. Allah. إذا أسلم في يوم من رمضان قبل الزوال لا يلزمه صوم ذلك اليوم حتى لا يلزمه قضاؤه لأنه لم يكن من أهل الوجوب في أول اليوم. If he becomes a Muslim after the zawal, well, the zawal now, the scholars differ about what is zawal. Is it like the middle between sunrise and dhuhr, or is it what? Dhuhr and straight after. So, but now in very brief, when the person becomes a Muslim after the zawal, then this person doesn't have to what? Make up that fast. Why? Because at the beginning of the Sawm, he wasn't what? Muslim. He wasn't, his actions weren't taken into account. He was not mukhatab. How would you say mukhatab? Addressed by the Sharia as a Muslim. And this is why he doesn't have to make it up. But we would tell him refrain from eating and drinking for the remaining of the day, because of the hurma of the day, and because of the what? The sanctity of that day. What? Yes. Because now, yani, it is the same with someone who feels very sick and says, I am sick. Anyway, we get to that because it will be someone marid. Then the second one is al-bulugh. Very important, barakallahu fikum. And some Muslims here might disagree when I say that we can't do qiyas between salah and so. We can't do an analogy between what? Sawm and salah. What am I trying to say? The Prophet ﷺ said, teach your children to pray when they are 7. Now, what do people do when it is Ramadan? Their children who are 7, they tell them to fast. Say, oh, how cute. And you see the child with the lips all dry, trembling. You say, mashallah, so cute. You will really get there in your life. You are maybe ruining the what? The kidneys. You are maybe ruining. I mean, fasting for a long time, 18 hours, when you are not an adult, can be dangerous for a child. This can be, harming the child. And it can also, and on the other hand, salah is a physical thing, meaning you do something but it has no effect on your body, no negative effect whatsoever. It is not tiring. So a child of 7, you tell it to pray, well, it's playing all the time, so instead of playing, you can also be praying. But instead of fasting, we would like you to be lasting. So what are we going to do? We are going to tell you, take it easy. You can maybe start with no candies during the day of Ramadan until the child grows older, because it is not mukhatab. It is more a cultural thing and like they are not mukhatab. That's all I want to say. So for prayer, yes, for some, no. So don't force it upon them, and sometimes even don't try to encourage them when they're still very young. Just leave them. It's their haqq, it's their freedom to eat and to drink and to play and to have what they like. It's a period in time where they have this haqq. And then and it's the same thing when you see your child. When you pray, your child will be praying. So when you pray, your child will be praying. And then you see your child pray. It's 2-3 years old, and then you think that the child is a wali. It's a wali lillah. Look, it's cute. I should admit, when I see this, we melt as parents, right? But if you would be doing something else, the child would be doing it too. And very often the children that were praying when they're 3 don't pray when they're 15. You see? So what I'm trying to say is we should stop in a certain way these or romanticizing these things like, we shouldn't be doing this. We Muslims, the fiqh is very straightforward, you know. So barakallahu fikum is the same thing. For example, if a man visits your house and your daughter is 3 years old and you tell her, no, don't give a hand, don't do this. At this period in time, it's a girl. It is a small girl. She can, her forehead can be kissed or her hand or whatever can be hugged. It's a child. And then at a certain moment in time, it learns now it is no longer allowed. And this is very often something which happens naturally. Like when you go to the age of 12, 13, all of a sudden there is a awareness that there is another side, the other gender, which all of a sudden you become shy, you shy away, and you feel it's a natural process. So if you start too early with this, then the natural process which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed in our lives will be actually disturbed. The child still has the right to run over the street with her hair loose. She's 3 years old. She doesn't have to cover. And now you say, but doesn't that mean when we start too late? I didn't tell you to start too late. Start on time. You see? Make people use, but I know it's like very cute and then with a little khimar, but this is not what her life is about now. Her life is about being free in that sense here. So this is why in the first 7 years we teach the children al-adab. The Prophet ﷺ said, leave them alone until they're 7. I mean, prayer is more important than anything else, isn't it? He said, leave them alone until they're 7. What are you going to do with this? No, try to fast. No, put on the hijab. No, put on this. Do that. Don't shake a hand. 7, the most important ibadah when they're 7. Before that, don't even mention it to them. And he said, teach them. Teach them. Teaching takes months. You see? So very often, because we are afraid to lose our identity, we are actually disforming our identity and passing on things which might eventually be traumatizing for someone or might cause the opposite effect of what we would like. If you start too early, they might see it as a burden. When you start on time, then what? They might see it as a freedom. It all depends. So I'm not saying that, all of this is bad and evil and astaghfirullah. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just approaching it from a fiqh point of view and also from a psychological point of view. Both of them. So anyway, let's continue. The second one is al-bulugh. فلا يجب صوم رمضان على الصبي وإن كان عاقلا حتى لا يلزمه القضاء بعد البلوغ. And he said, al-bulugh is when we speak the age of puberty, and it has signs. Puberty has signs, and you know which they are, so I'm not going to mention them. We have amongst us. So, al-bulugh, when the signs of puberty are present. And then he said, so a child should not be fasting. It's not wajib. And he said, and he doesn't have to make up the fasting, even if the child is aqil. Meaning, even if the child is 11. Now, it's 11, it understands that Sawm is wajib, it is obligatory. It's not obligatory for him. And if he doesn't pray, he doesn't need to make it up. He doesn't need to catch up with Sawm. And he shouldn't then also, if it is not fard, when your child says, oh mama, 12, for example, no signs of puberty. Oh mom, I really don't want to fast today, or dad, we have exams, it's difficult, long days. Astaghfirullah, you should be courageous, you should be doing it. There is no wujub yet. It is not obligatory. So the reason now you say, then why with salah is, do we start at 7 and then at 10 we undertake actions to let the child pray. So now they say, what is the difference then? They say, well, because prayer is something which is 5 times a day, which a child should get used to, into routine. Now, because if you immediately have to start praying 5 times a day without ever being introduced to that habit of praying, then that will be very difficult. So we have, step by step, we introduce them to it. As for Sawm, It is once a year and you just start with it. Does your body get used to it? Well, to be quite frank, the majority of Muslims, yani every 3 first days of Ramadan, the majority of Muslims or have a headache, they are tired, they feel that they don't have energy, but they have been fasting for 20 years, meaning that there's no true preparation to it, as your body always gets into that shock of not receiving food, of do we say detoxication? Detoxification? I'm on camera, please help me.
Detoxifying and detoxification.
Detoxification, okay. Detoxification, we agree? Okay. So you're going to have that headache, because now your fat is burning and bad things that are within your fat are being released. It goes to your brain, a lot of iron is being released and so much more, and toxical, things. So you're going to have that headache. That's normal. You're going to be tired because your body, all of a sudden is not receiving what it usually receives and is now releasing other things. So this is the difference why we say with salah at 7 and definitely at 10, and we don't say this about Sawm. Is that clear? So very, very important here. Allah. إذا بلغ في يوم من رمضان قبل الزوال لا يجزئه صوم ذلك اليوم وإن نوى وليس عليه قضاؤه. نعم. If someone were to become a Muslim after the sun has risen, then that day is not obligatory upon him, because he started the day of that worship as someone who was not responsible to, was not obliged to fast, and he doesn't have to make up this fast. Al-aqlu, yani somebody needs to have a sound, healthy mind. After this one, a sound, healthy mind, meaning, like if you have, how do you call? I don't know what the term is in English. Like if someone hasn't got a sound mind and
Capacity.
no, it's different. It's not only insanity, because insanity I think would be that you behave in a strange way as well. No. So somebody who, do we say a mental handicap? Do we say this? Or is that impolite?
Mental illness.
Okay. No. It's when somebody has no awareness. When somebody is not aware, can't think properly.
Tamiz.
Yeah.
Tamiz.
Yes.
So you can't distinguish between right.
Okay, okay, I think everybody understood what I meant, right? Okay. So also, for example, people who have the illness of a sickness of Down, for example, people and so forth. So they don't have to fast, and they don't have to pray, and they don't have to make it up. Now, very often within Muslim midst, they try to encourage these people to fast. They say, try, you will go to Allah, and the person is not hasn't got a healthy mind, or I don't know, don't want to be like impolite, but that's due to my language, that I don't really know the term. So anyway, so we shouldn't encourage them to be fasting nor to be praying. They don't have to do this. The pen is lifted for them. Is that clear? So this is important as well. Now, then they say العلم بالوجوب لمن أسلم بدار الحرب. Yani he who lives in Dar al-Harb. Today, Shaykh Ramadan al-Bouti rahmatullah alayhi, he spoke about Dar al-Da'wah. Al-Da'wah. Yani a non-Muslim country where the Muslims are the minority, but where they live in peace. That's Dar al-Da'wah. And some say Dar al-Mu'ahada. Okay, where people live and are connected to one another through contracts and agreements. So anyway, so now when someone lives in a place where there are no Muslims, and he becomes a Muslim and doesn't know that Sawm is obligatory, what about him? He says, إذ الكون بدار الإسلام موجب للصوم وإن لم يعلم بوجوبه بخلاف من أسلم في دار الحرب ولم يعلم به فإنه لا يجب عليه ما لم يعلم فإذا علم ليس عليه قضاء ما مضى. So if a person becomes a Muslim in a country where he has no access or information, like my mother in 2004 was in connection to an Eskimo. You know an Eskimo? Do you say Eskimos? Yes. And she became a Muslim through a booklet which was only talking about Salah and the Shahada. That was it, that was the book. And she became a Muslimah, she believed in it. But she never heard of fasting or anything else. And then when she spoke to my mother, it was then these old messenger things, like, right? Then my mother said, yes, and how do you fast? She said, what is fasting? What is Ramadan? So the moment she knew it, that was the moment it became obligatory upon her. But as she didn't have any access back then, the time she was a Muslim and didn't fast, she doesn't have to make up that fast. Is that clear? So, but from the moment she knows or someone knows, then it becomes obligatory. If a person has access and didn't find the access, but he was looking for access and he didn't find it, but was in a place where you can have access to that knowledge, he has to make up the fast. He wasn't a sinner because he didn't know, but he needs to make up the fast because he could have found someone who was there who knew that the fard is obligatory upon him. This is important when you guide converts, when they embrace Islam. So the last 2 minutes for today, you had a question. I think your question had to do with bulugh.
Yeah. So is that same as the person who was baling during the day? They still have to do imsak wujuban?
We wouldn't say wujuban. We would say, there are two opinions, which say that it's obligatory, and others that say no, it isn't. Exactly like a woman who would start fasting, and then her fast would be broken. She's allowed to eat now. But some would say hurmatan lil yawm, it is better not to. So I think that's the strongest way to go by.
But they do imsak.
They do imsak, yes. Okay, then that's it for today, inshallah, tabarak wa ta'ala. Yes. So I hope it was beneficial. So next time we are going to dive deeper into the Sawm, inshallah. And yes, we will finish quite quickly, inshallah. Before Ramadan, that's the intention. And then we have the book we started today, because we finished the other book about the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, so which is Risalatul Mustarshideen. So this one, it would be nice if we can upload this as well, Umar, inshallah. Would be very nice. The explanation of Risalatul Mustarshideen, so that I can share it as well, because I have a problem with my phone. My audio is like really bad, and when people listen to me, they don't hear what I'm saying. So, inshallah. So, khair. Any questions?
Can I ask a question about the first class?
Of course you can.
I'm just slightly confused about the niyyah.
Okay.
So if you say, when you talk about shirkul khafi,
Yes.
so if, for example, you say, I'm going to clean the house to make my mother happy.
Okay.
So is that not rewardable? Is that
No.
khafi?
Like, as a Muslim, you can have, that's what my Shaykh said, a general niyyah where you start with, where you say, I'm going to abide by what Allah, or live my life through which Allah loves. And every good deed I'm going to do is for Allah's sake. So now making your mother happy is also worship of Allah. Right? So, but now if it's only to make your mother happy, that's something different. But if you are aware that making her happy is a worship of Allah, then there is no problem. Then you making her happy is a worship. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, the most beloved deed to Allah is that you make a Muslim heart happy. That's the most beloved deed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So behind that intention, it's a
Yes,
worship.
yes.
That's the point.
Exactly. And it shouldn't be turned into waswasa, like, am I really doing this for Allah or just for my mother? You just say, making my mother happy is a form of worship. No.
Sorry, is there something like the meaning of the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ? So is that every action is moved by intention?
Yes.
That's the meaning.
Yes. That's the meaning of a lot of the shurrah. They say, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, actions are driven by intentions, meaning behind every action there is an intention. وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَىٰ. And so everybody will be rewarded or punished in harmony with the intention he had or she had behind the deed. فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ رَغْبَةً وَقَصْدًا فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ ثَوَابًا وَجَزَاءً. You see? So the one who performs hijrah to Allah with his intention to please Allah will be rewarded as someone who did hijrah for Allah and His Prophet. You see? So this is the meaning of the hadith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's okay. No, I like questions.
It's from last week.
Oh, mashallah. Okay. We can also go back to last year if you like. No, I'm just joking. Yes.
So it's just a story of that he was telling us of Tha'alaba.
Yes.
I missed the beginning bit. You said he inadvertently saw the ankle of a woman.
No, he saw the appearance of a woman, a part of, we don't know what, of the aura which he shouldn't see. This can be the ankle, this can be the shin, this can be the forearm, whatever. We don't know what it was. Yes.
Sorry, I missed the ending.
Of the story as well?
The story when
Okay.
after Sayyidina Umar found him.
Yes.
And then, so he went straight to the Prophet ﷺ and
No. And he died in the arms of the Prophet ﷺ, and then the Prophet ﷺ, while he was looking into the eyes of the Prophet ﷺ, and then the Prophet walked behind his janazah and said, if you were to see how many angels are attending his janazah, and this happened to more than one companion. No. وإياكم. خلاص? MashaAllah, see you next Thursday inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan, barakallahu feekum. You are wonderful people giving up your time to attend classes. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.